Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Nadex Morning Analysis. Before we jump into today's session, let me do a quick introduction. My name is Todd Rich. I am with Nadex. With me, as usual, from Keep Trading Simple is Brian Caprice. Before we do our session, I do need to share that trading involves risk, may not be appropriate for everyone, and that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. Lastly, this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your educational purposes. So, I think there's two different stories going on that you should be aware of this morning. They are each different for each side of the pond. Let's start with Europe because that has been the story all week. We've got Brexit is not going well. So, Brian, you want to tee us up on what's going on over there, and we could take a look at a couple of the
right now it's not going at all.
Forex markets. Yeah, it's not going at all is the problem, right?
It's a no exit right now. Or I guess it's not a no exit. There is an exit. It's just a hard exit. It's not the trade agreement that they had originally assumed. Let me bring up. Let's bring this over here. Overall, we haven't really heard too much about the coming out of the EU summit this morning. And as you guys can see, again, gauging what's really moving, you can see not much. Euro dollar's flat completely. Dollar yen down a little bit. Dollar Swiss barely moving. Dollar CAD barely moving. Aussie dollar's up a little bit. There was a little bit of Australian news, but besides that, everything is pound focused. That's it. I mean, that's all we got is the pound. Looking at what the most recent headlines in regards to Brexit are, tells the EU summit, no deal, the most likely option. And then you talk about Johnson on the other side. From where I stand right now, it's looking very, very likely that we will have a no deal. So, I mean, at this point, everybody is prepared for that. As we've mentioned, going into the charts, I mean, the pound yen is probably the one that's the most affected by, kind of what's happening with Brexit. And you can see in the last, 8-10 hours, it's down about 182 pips. And we mentioned this. Every time we had positive news with Brexit, the price soared. Every time we had negative news, the price absolutely collapsed down. Now, we had levels in here that we had talked about. We mentioned kind of the break of the 137.18, the 137.06 was the prior level we had set up in the past, that if we get a bit of a break of those, that we'd be looking to potentially take shorts lower. Targets down to 136.35 and 135.85. Now, here's kind of a little bit of a warning. Now, we've had a lot of movement, and if I drop this down to, say, a 30-minute, you can see that the price is bouncing and pulling back. Now, remember that the way that the market moves, it's an impulse and then a correction phase, right? Impulse, correction, impulse, correction. And that's what we're seeing right now. This is one of those situations where everybody says, oh my God, it's going down. We need to sell it. And then all of a sudden the price goes up. So while we like this as, why I like this as far as, kind of a continued short back down to 135 and, with a no deal Brexit, I do feel that that's probably what the case is going to be. Being Friday, being they only have a few hours left in their market, and being that the United States right now, the U.S. market really has just no catalyst whatsoever, I'm wondering if this is going to kind of go down and flatline on us, and then this is going to be a trade set up for Sunday. And it's something that we're going to have to play with, maybe even weekly call spreads or knockouts because they have a longer duration. As next week unfolds, you will hear media releases about what a no deal looks like. You're going to talk about the effects on businesses, the type of stimulus that is going to be needed now, and it's basically going to be perception is reality. Perception is Brexit's not coming, and that's going to be the reality that it's not there. They're going to start putting things into practice to kind of save that, which everything basically just weakens the pound.
So let's actually take a look at that over on the Nadex platform. I mean, that setup that you're talking about, we don't really know, right? In fact, we're starting to see this a little bit. I mean, this has gotten really ugly with the pound yen. I mean, it really has gotten. And
we knew that it would, though. I mean, we knew that if there was a no deal, that this is what was going to happen. It was going to drop to the downside.
And I mean, we were getting down toward levels that we hadn't even seen, in a month. How do you really play this? There are, you know, some people would say, hey, this thing's going to keep going lower. But as you mentioned, we might see a bit of a reversal just because it is late in the day over there. And, these contracts expire in 6 hours. These are the knockouts. In the call spread area, let me just move over to the pound yen for call spreads. Here we go. And what I'm going to do is actually just kind of show you. There are a couple different. I mean, if you were, let's move this down. If you thought there was going to be a bit of a reversal this morning, that might be the way to play it. We've got a couple different call spreads in here. Not that I mean, I don't know if it's going to move 500 pips, but there's the 250 pip call spread as well. I mean, there is a way for you to try to potentially play this if we're going to get a little bit of a reversal today. But as you mentioned, I think that the real thought is keep an eye on it over the weekend. So Sunday evening, take a look back at the charts and see how things are moving then. And definitely check in with us Monday morning, because we'll analyze what happened over the weekend and we'll see where we are with any news for Brexit over the weekend, and if anything else should manifest itself. With the pound yen, we've also got the euro pound, which is going to look the opposite. I don't know if you want to bring the euro pound up real quickly.
I have it up right now. Yeah, I mean, the pound yen has moved 300 since last Friday's peak when everybody thought Brexit was happening. They were going to have a dinner meeting. It's gone down 392 pips in 5 days. We still have the rest of today, too, to see how much farther down it can go. So it's been an absolutely huge mover to the downside. Here's kind of the same thing, but on the opposite. Now, the pound is in the second position, meaning that when we see weakness, this one will go up. And that's what we've seen. It's kind of the same idea. Now, this is a daily chart. I know that's a little bit higher than I normally talk about, and we're trying to find opportunities for today. But we have a level up top here, right around 92.46. It's kind of the extreme range of the curve, but unfortunately, we have such a huge area of sellers up top. It's going to be really hard to find a top just on the daily charts. But it's kind of the same thinking. You can see we got really, really close. We pushed up, and then it kind of came back at the extreme range of this curve, and we've had this curve level up here. So it's kind of the same thinking. If we can get a little bit more continued weakness today and a little bit of a push up, we could be looking for patterns and patterns like this. Whoops. Let me change the color of this one real quick here. I apologize for that. I'll go to yellow so you guys can really see it. You know what? Let me see if I can make this big, and I'll spread it out so you guys can see the exact pattern that I'm talking about. Let's delete that. All right. Whoops. I'm going to do that. I'm looking for this type of a pattern. See these candles here, how this was a strong push up and it based sideways and then it based and then kind of really drove away. That's kind of what I'm looking for. If I could find a top like this would signify to me that at least on a technical basis, we could have some shorts coming into the market. And that's kind of what I'm looking for on Sunday night. I know it's kind of a little bit harder to see there, but this type of pattern, right? This pop, kind of drop a base and then a drop down again. One of those up here, that failure to go higher pattern, especially on a Sunday night, that would be where I'd be looking at maybe some of the weekly call spreads or even some of the longer duration binaries in there to see if we can get some type of a decent setup, because it's not like, again, this is all bad for the pound, but it's not like the European Union is in a great financial position right now as well. It's just that I think most people, me included, thought that we would get a Brexit deal done, and they could still have something. It's looking like there's a no exit, but I mean, until it's officially the day after that the deadline is here, they could still come up with something last minute. You never know. I mean, it's 2020. Anything could happen at this point,
right? That is absolutely true. I want to just bring up the Nadex chart on this one quickly for the euro pound. This is a 5-minute chart on a daily, and we're already seeing a little bit of a reversal, just in the last 20 minutes, where, I mean, it started going through the roof. People kept on thinking, all right, this thing's just going to explode because the pound's going to get killed. And here we are right now, and it is actually reversing a little bit. The way to potentially play this today might be in the binary options, where you've got your limited risk, limited reward, and there might be some opportunities here with these binary options that settle just in about 6 hours. But as you mentioned, really, it's going to be something that you'd want to pay attention to for maybe a little bit of a longer term trade. You could take a look at the call spreads and the knockouts on Sunday evening and reassess then. But for today, it might be easier to try to do something with the euro pound or the pound yen in the binary markets.
Yeah, and maybe even grab, going into the small binaries, dropping it down if you're going to use the 5 minute, dropping it down into like some of the 2 hours where the strike differential is not as far. But again, be careful. In just under 3 hours from now, the UK market closes on a Friday. That tends to be where most of the volatility and everything dries up in these pairs. So just keep that in mind too with any type of expiration and with options.
Perfect. The other story that really is what's kind of going on over in the U.S.
Yeah, it's
Here,
kind of
let me just
Right.
kind of tee it up real quickly because it's rather interesting. Everything's been COVID related, where when it looks like, oh, we're going to have a solution with COVID, the Nasdaq's gone one way, the Dow and the S&P have gone another, but we've got all of them equally down around 0.5% right now this morning, which tells me this is probably a little bit more economic related. And then we've got oil following it. So
Yeah.
maybe you could just kind of touch briefly on the markets, but I think oil might be a bit of the story for today.
Yeah,
For
so yesterday we saw, and actually, let me just bring that chart in. It's probably just easier to explain it that way. Where do I have it? Right here, we saw an absolute explosion yesterday in oil. Now, we saw, if you guys remember earlier in the week, we saw that huge surplus in oil, and all of a sudden, price just skyrocketed. Well, yesterday, I don't know if you guys caught the news or not, that there was B-52 sent over to dissuade Iran from other attacks. I didn't really, or I guess from doing something. I hadn't realized that there was any type of a conflict over there. But anytime any type of military asset is sent over to the Middle East, and didn't hear anything about it. I saw the release. I was like, wait, what the heck is going with oil? Um, that has led oil to spike. And since that time, we haven't heard anything. The president has said anything. We haven't heard any major news releases about it. We heard that Israel was, making some really good strikes in Syria, but that's it. I didn't really, and we've heard nothing. So again, this is an emotional response, sending, military assets to the Middle East. And because we've heard nothing now, it actually hit a level up to the 74, 71. That was a level we had on the daily anyway, has now since rolled over and pulled back down again because the news has kind of just dissipated. Looking at the markets today, we saw that the core PPI numbers actually disappointed, came in a little bit less. So without any type of news, any type of new coronavirus news, rollout of vaccines. I mean, I know Maryland we just shut down even harder. We're going into full lockdown. I know my county in particular, they closed all outdoor and indoor dining for the next 4 weeks. Shut down any type of outside activity with more than 5 or 10 people. It's kind of crazy, but all of our counties now just went in the red. So all this negative kind of news right now, again, people are kind of getting worried. And that unemployment number that we saw yesterday, remember that unemployment number, 583,000 people have lost their jobs and have filed for unemployment.
Not pretty. Yeah.
That's starting to weigh on the markets. And again, here's an S&P trade. We talked about breaking that level at 36.43, and you can see that came down almost to our target and pulled back into that level. Again, we may see some movement off of that one. It's in an area of sellers now. NQ, kind of chopping sideways. This is an hourly. I can drop it here. You can see in the overnight came down and took a little bit of a bounce off that 30-minute level. And again, that kind of triggered it about 5 o'clock in the morning. And then Dow is kind of the same thing. It had its little rollover, and about 4 or 5 o'clock in this morning ran into a small little kind of 30-minute kind of what I would say a hiccup level and has pulled back. But now we've pulled back into an area of sellers. So it'd be interesting to see what the opening print looks like today.
Awesome. Well, before I send you on your way, there's something I want to mention. This is coming up next week. We're doing a day trading boot camp. If you go to the Nadex website and you go to learning and webinars, you will be able to actually find it. It is next Thursday, December 17th, and you can register for it. It is going to be 3 hours long. We're going to start at 11 a.m. Eastern. We're kicking it off. We've got Guy Adami from CNBC's Fast Money, who's going to share his wisdom on the trader mindset from his experiences. He's been around and seen a lot. So he'll share with you the day trader mindset. We'll talk about some of the Nadex products and tools for accessing short-term price action. And my colleague, Dan Cook, is going to wrap it up with some interesting trading strategies with Nadex products, particularly if you put some of these products together in different ways. So I did want to tee that up, that if you're interested, go over to our website, check it out. in our webinars section. You'll be hearing much more about that. You'll probably even get an email if you're with Nadex, but please reserve your place and join us next Thursday. Brian, with that, is there anything else that you want to kind of tee people up with for the weekend that they might want to be thinking about?
I mean, weekend, it's obviously going to be about Brexit. It's Brexit or stimulus. Those are the two things that everybody's waiting for. Everybody's looking for. Even FOMC and what people are saying, what we should expect next week with the FOMC meeting notes. It kind of goes back to the same things. Everybody's positive for everybody's has hopes of a fiscal stimulus to come out before the end of the year. So that's it. Kind of keep your ears to the ground. Listen for any Brexit data and listen for any rumors of stimulus. And then again, how we trade Sunday night into Monday morning.
Perfect. With that, if you need anything from Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media, and you can set reminders for these daily sessions, 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern every morning. If you'd like to reach out to Brian, you can email him, support@keeptradingsimple.com. He is accessible. Would like to thank you for joining us this morning. Want to wish everyone who's celebrating a happy Hanukkah. Want to wish everyone good luck in the markets and enjoy your weekend. Thanks, everyone.